Welcome to today's lecture. We'll be exploring the intricate dance between genetic factors and environmental influences that sculpt our identities. By considering both individual and collective angles, we can gain a more nuanced understanding of this complex process. Let's start with nature. This refers to biological and genetic factors that we inherit. They influence everything from physical characteristics to personality traits and cognitive abilities. These genetic dispositions can be seen as the starting point of identity formation, painting broad strokes on the canvas of who we are. However, the picture is far from complete. This brings us to nurture, the environmental factors shaping our identities. These include familial upbringing, cultural norms, and societal expectations. They add detail and color to our identity canvas, rounding out the picture and giving it depth. Let's now turn to some examples. We'll look at how nature and nurture interact in shaping identities within maybe Latinx populations, for instance. Consider Latinx individuals who share a common genetic heritage, often tracing back to indigenous Native American, European, and African roots. This genetic mixture contributes to a shared physical identity. Genetics can play a role in shaping cultural practices, including food preferences and dietary habits among populations such as Mexican Americans. One example is the genetic predisposition of certain individuals to taste PTC, a bitter compound. The ability to taste PTC is determined by a single gene with two alleles. Some people are tasters, finding PTC extremely bitter, while others are non-tasters, unable to detect its bitterness. Now, this genetic variation can influence individuals' preferences for bitter foods. Looking at the Mexican American cuisine, it is characterized by a rich tapestry of flavors, including the use of various types of chiles, which could range from sweet to extremely bitter. Therefore, the genetic ability to taste PTC might influence the tolerance and preference for bitter chilies among some individuals in the Mexican American population. Latinx ethnicities, a highly mixed population, are not the only ones that perceive differences in bitterness. In fact, ethnicity significantly influences the ability to taste PTC. And this variation is mainly due to different frequencies of specific alleles of the TAS-TR38 or TS2R38 gene in different populations. Sorry, there was a little mistake there. For example, Caucasians, approximately 70% of individuals of European descent can taste PTC. This is one of the highest rates among ethnic groups. African populations, the frequency of PTC tasters varies greatly within African populations. Some studies suggest an average of about 58% that are tasters, though this can differ significantly among subgroups. East Asians. People of East Asian descent generally have a lower frequency of PTC tasters, averaging about 50%. Now, Native Americans, some studies show a lower frequency of tasting that bitterness ability, but it can be as high as even 58%, or approximately 58%. South Asians, although comprehensive data is lacking, initial studies suggest a relatively high frequency of PTC tasting ability among South Asian populations. This variability is a fascinating example of how our genetic makeup, shaped by our ethnic backgrounds, can influence our sensory experiences, such as the taste of food. Moreover, the genetic disposition to lactose intolerance is more prevalent among people of Mexican descent compared to some other ethnicities. This has influenced their use of dairy products and traditional Mexican cuisine. While cheese is a common ingredient, it is often aged or fermented, like queso fresco or queso de bola, forms that are generally easier to digest for people with lactose intolerance. Also, lactose-free alternatives such as rice-based horchata are common traditional drinks. However, it's important to note that while genetics can influence food preferences or dietary adaptations, cultural practices, availability of ingredients, and personal preferences play a significant role in shaping culinary traditions in any ethnic group. Their interplay between nature, genetics, and nurture environment adds another layer of complexity to this fascinating aspect of cultural identity. However, the Latinx identity extends beyond these genetic bounds. It's shaped by a rich tapestry of cultural influences varying by country of origin and immigration and history. For example, a Mexican American born and raised in San Antonio will have a very different identity experience compared to a Puerto Rican living in New York, despite their shared Latinx heritage. Here, we see how nurture in the form of a cultural context and geographical location sculpts the Latinx identity. In conclusion, understanding identity formation demands a comprehensive appreciation of both nature and nurture. Our inherited genetic traits provide a foundation, but it is our interactions with the environment, our upbringing, cultural context, societal norms, and life experiences that give shape and detail to our identities. Thanks.